Alright, I'm back for vlog number 3. And today I thought that I would tell you a story about a little girl that was just here at the ranch that I work on. Oh yes, first of all, I work on a guest ranch in Montana, and what I do here is I'm in charge of their horse program. I'm what's called the head wrangler. So I'm over all of the stock on the main ranch, and I take people horseback riding in the Rocky Mountains, and I train their horses, their new horses for them. So the other day there was this huge family reunion here, and I was in charge of all of the kids. And what I was doing is for the kids that were a little bit older, so this girl was 5. And at 5 years old, you can sit on a saddle without someone holding onto your leg with you. So I was on my horse, and I had a lead rope, and I was leading this other horse. And I had this little girl on there, and she's super cute. This really cute, super spunky, fearless little girl. And she's on this horse, and she's just having the time of her life. And so we're walking, and I have no idea what happened. First of all, I have the kids on this horse named Gunner, and he is so bomb-proof. He doesn't get scared. He's solid. That's why we put kids on him, because he's just solid. Nothing phases him, and he's good for kids. He's got a good temperament, and he's nice and slow, and he doesn't spook. So we're walking along, and he spooked. The first time I've ever seen that horse spook, he spooked. And she just tumbled right off. And she fell to the ground, and she hit some rocks, scraped up her knees a little bit, and I flew off my horse. I was like, oh my gosh, I was so freaked out. And I rushed to her, and she wasn't crying, but you could tell her eyes were big, and she was just like, I just fell off a horse, because they're big, and this is a tall horse that I have him on. He is tall, but he's really solid, so it makes up for the tallness, so it's okay. But she tumbled off. She freaked out. Her eyes are big, and I looked at her, and I was like, "Are you okay? Does anything hurt?" And she's like, "No, nothing hurts. I'm fine." And I was like, "Okay, well, you have to get back on." And I mean, obviously, I wouldn't have made her get back on, but you have to get back on. So I was like, "So you're gonna get back on?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm going to get back on." So I got her up on her horse, and she still looked like she was about to cry. She didn't cry, but she looked like she was about to cry. And I looked at her, and I was like, "You want to know something? Now you're a real cowgirl." So I told her she was a real cowgirl, because no one can possibly be considered a cowgirl until they've really fallen off of their horse. Because what cowgirl hasn't fallen off their horse a million times? It's just how it works. It's the nature of the beast, if you will. And so she fell off, and she got back on, and I told her she was a cowgirl, and we kept riding. I wasn't going to take her for a long ride, but we kept riding. And at this point, I didn't get on my horse, actually. I was just leading her horse after this. I had someone else grab my horse, and I just walked her horse nice and slow, because she got back on, and so I thought she deserved that. So we're walking along, and she still looks like she's going to cry. And then I start to talk to her, and she starts to laugh, and she starts to have a really good time. And I'm like, "Okay, that was a pretty short ride. Do you want to turn back around?" And she's like, "No, I want to keep going." And so we walked for quite a ways. I kept taking her, and by the time we got back to the barn, she was laughing, and she was smiling and giggling and just having the time of her life. And I was so upset to go back and face the parents. I was like, I know she fell off, and I know that I didn't bring her back here, but I had to get her back on, and I'm sorry. And they were like, "What did you do? She's so happy now. What happened out there?" And I was like, she got back on the horse. That was good. And so I was thinking about it later, because that little girl came out of the situation. Her parents were happy, and she was happy. She was glowing. She kept telling everybody, she's like, "I'm a cowgirl now. No big deal. I'm a cowgirl now." And she's 5. I don't know if I told you that. She's 5 years old, and she had these pink sparkly boots, and she was officially a cowgirl. And the only reason I told her that is because that's what I was told the first time I fell off my horse. "Well, now you're officially a cowgirl. Falling off your horse." And I always remembered that, and so I was like, "You're a cowgirl!" In my fear and like trying to make her feel better. But when she walked out of that situation, she was happy. She was proud of herself, and she'd gotten back on the horse. And so I was thinking about that, and in terms of life and other situations and tough situations, how often do we just walk away when something goes wrong, whether it be in a relationship or at work or whatever, with friends? When something goes wrong, how often do we say, "No, I'm afraid of horses. I do not want to get back in the saddle"? You know, no, my heart was broken one time. I did not want to fall back in love. You know, like, how often do we do that? And it was scary for her to get back on the horse. I mean, that horse was probably 3 times her height. You know, and she had just fallen that far. And she got back up there. And she came out of it happier than she was before. So I was thinking about how does that apply to the rest of our lives? How can we think about that and you know, get back on our metaphorical horse? How can we try the things that scare us half to death and come out of it? Because if we do, we'll come out of it just as excited as she was, just as happy, because we accomplished something that was so scary, you know, that maybe hurt us in the past or could possibly hurt us again. You know, but it was like she conquered it, and we can conquer it, you know? So I was just thinking about the metaphorical horses in my life, and you know, the ones that I've gotten back on, and the ones that I've walked away from in fear. And even though the longer you wait to get back on the horse, the scarier it is, I think that we should, you know, it should be a rule of thumb. No matter what, you get freaked out, you fall off your horse, you get back on. And that's what I've been thinking about. So there's something for you to think about too. Happy Thursday.